Welcome to part 2 of ET with GOTB at Euro 2025 preview podcast. I'm Rachel.
I'm Sophie.
And this is Extra Time with Girls on the Ball. Okay, Sophie, this is part 2. As you remember, we went through all of the groups kind of briefly in our first part, and we promised to do a little bit of a deeper dive into the Lionesses and Wales. So this is it. Before we move on, I'm going to give you a quick reminder of what we plan to do across this tournament. We are aiming for a game every match day, hoping to see every single team and every single venue. We've got some really fun content coming up across the next couple of weeks. So to make sure you do not miss anything, make sure you're subscribed wherever you're watching or wherever you're listening to your podcasts. And make sure, of course, you're following us across all of our social media platforms. We are at Girls on the Ball on everything. We are also trying out Substack for this tournament as well. We want to see what you guys like, what you guys engage with, what you guys want to see more of. And that's also going to help us shape how we approach next season as well. And we've got a special offer for those who subscribe for exclusive content only during the Euros as well. So make sure you sign up now. Anyway, Soph, shall we crack on? I don't know about you, but it is like so hot in this apartment.
So warm.
And there's no air conditioning, and we have to keep closing all of the windows every time we record something. And I was hot before we closed the windows.
But I think you did promise me ice cream afterwards.
I said I felt like an ice cream.
That means you promised me ice cream afterwards.
Okay, well, the sooner we get going, guys, the sooner we can go and get an ice cream. Okay, as I touched on, part 1 done and dusted, all the groups. You gave us your predictions as well for each group. You highlighted a player that you were looking forward to watching.
Probably all be wrong.
As well, we shall see. It's always hard to predict these things. There's always teams that surprise, players that shock, teams that don't turn up. So, always difficult to predict. And yes, as promised, we're going to delve a little bit into these two teams. Home nations always seem to draw each other in groups in major tournaments. And here we are yet again with England and Wales. And on top of that, we're going to hear from Fara Williams and Helen Ward in this episode as well. So a bit of extra for you guys. Really interesting to see how they feel about their respective nations going into this tournament, and also from like a broadcast perspective for them, how they're shaping up as well. So I think you'll enjoy that. Okay, the Lionesses, defending champions, won their group in Euro 2022 against Austria, Norway and Northern Ireland. Of course, there's that home nation again. They didn't concede a goal. Then they beat Spain in extra time in the quarterfinals. They beat Sweden in the semi-finals, and then they beat Germany in extra time at Wembley, of course, in the final. And that win has been a big spark for football, women's football in England. You've been writing a little bit about how things have changed since the last Euros, which will be coming out in The Guardian very, very soon. So do read that when it comes out. And then they followed up their Euros win, getting to a World Cup final, beaten by Spain 1-0 in the final. And I think the first 2 years under Serena Vigen were probably quite unique in terms of preparation time, because she came in, had a home tournament to prepare for the immediate summer, had a World Cup to prepare for the following summer after that. Very little time to kind of manage ins and outs, etc. There's an awful lot more time leading into this tournament, and it's given her more time to bring in new players. 7 players making their major tournament debut?
Yeah, I think it's funny because people say she doesn't rotate and that she doesn't kind of bring in new players, but she does. And I think over the certainly since the Euros, she brought in a whole host of new players who have established themselves even if you just look at the last 12, 18 months, you've got Aggie Beever-Jones, Grace Clinton, Jess Park, Michelle Adjumang's come in. You've got Hannah Hampton's come back in, and I know she was at the Euros in 2022, but she's solidified her place, and now she's the number 1 goalkeeper. You've got, Esme Morgan, Maya Letizier. They're all, young players who are performing well for their clubs and then getting the opportunity at country. And they might not all start, and they might not get that many minutes all the time, but at least they're in the setup. And it's that like recycling process, right, that you have to do between major tournaments. And I think you're right. Like, the problem is that with every nation now across Europe the most developed women's football nations across Europe have no time to really bed in young players or work that process. England have had to do it because of injuries, and most other teams have had to do it because of injuries. But otherwise, you probably stick with your normal strongest starting 11 that, doesn't really give you much flexibility to fail, to try things, to lose games and all of this stuff. So they're working within those parameters. So I think actually, when I look at it, Serena Wiegman has done actually a pretty good job in terms of that recycling process, given what she was up against in terms of the multiple major tournaments.
Some think England have had a dramatic dip in form. Realistically, they've understandably struggled to maintain the heights of Serena Wiegman's first year in charge when they went on that incredible 30-something unbeaten run, which was always going to come to an end.
But we loved it, but at the same time, it's not a sign of a healthy game overall.
Yeah.
If a team is going on a 33-game unbeaten run, there has to be. If I'm taking my England hat off for a minute and going more about the sport, there has to be a competition where any team can beat any team on any given day, and I think we're getting closer to that. When I look at England's group this time round, and you see France and the Netherlands, no disrespect to Wales, but those are the two that they compete against them kind of the most, or expect to compete against the most. They're at that level of the game, and you can't call it. Yes, on their day, the Lionesses are good enough to beat both of those two, but equally on their day, the other two are. So you're getting to that more competitive stage where, yes, as England fans, we expect them to win everything, but at the same time, the game is getting so much more competitive that there is this kind of jeopardy in it that you don't know what's going to happen on any given occasion.
And also, for teams like Wales and Poland and, your Belgiums, your Portugals, your teams that are in and around these tough groups, we've gotten to a point now where these games aren't guaranteed. You're not guaranteed to win against any of those teams. They can cause upsets on their day. Wales can cause upsets on their day. Wales are going to absolutely relish playing England last. If they might have done something where they could actually have a chance of getting out of the group if they win it, equally if they don't, I love the fact that they can determine potentially the outcome of the group as well. So that's the other thing is, yes, the top teams, it feels like everyone's kind of in and around each other. But now you've got teams that are maybe you're expected third and fourth in the group that actually you go, they could actually do something. They could pull a win out here and there and actually upset the apple cart a little bit. And like you say, that kind of just alludes to the fact that the game has grown so much. And it has, since that last Euros, which is what we wanted. And it's what the World Cup showed us as well. You had so many teams causing upsets. As you touched on, Nations League, of course, reducing opportunities for friendlies. Although I do think it was interesting yesterday, or when England played their friendly against Jamaica, that some people expected Wiegman to treat that like a friendly, to rotate players and give players a go, which is never going to happen right before a major tournament.
The problem is when you have a lead in as short as it's been to this major tournament, with the international break in June, which is quite frankly the most ridiculous international break known to man. But yeah, with that international break, it meant probably the lead up, I think, was about three weeks from the end of that, or 3 or 4 weeks from the end of that to the beginning of the tournament, which means the players had to go away for a week. They had to have some time off and rest, and that's necessary. And they had to be tapered back in. So you need at least 2 weeks to get yourself tapered back in and up to full fitness. It left very, very little time for games. And equally, the June-July international window didn't start until the end of last week, I think. So teams couldn't schedule friendlies, official friendlies in that time. So it gave them a very short preparation process, which meant you only had, I don't think anyone's played more than one game.
Yeah.
In terms of that. And that means that for that final game, you need to get the players who are starting the game up to speed. And that's why you saw Alessia Russo play 65 minutes or whatever she played, or 75 minutes
until she got that goal
and got her goal, because they needed her firing on all cylinders come Saturday in a week's time. And it's the same with Georgia Stanway getting 90 minutes. She hasn't had a 90 minutes since January, since she did her LCL. So she needed 90 minutes under the belt, and that's why you're not going to see the rotation or the opportunities given to the players who Serena knows will play a huge part in the squad, but probably won't get many minutes.
How do you think Serena Wiegman has done in solidifying a major tournament-ready team? Have those new players had enough time? For reference, 6 players in the squad have 10 or less caps. 2 of those, to be fair, are goalkeepers, and we will touch on the goalkeeper position. But it does feel a bit like, compared to the last Euros, that perhaps, and maybe that's because there's less, I can't remember what the numbers were, but maybe less players who don't have major tournament experience. And because the Euros now, we got so used to tournament, now we've got a gap. People are suddenly like feeling like those super sub players that we saw at the Euros are like aging out, getting too many minutes and should be replaced by now. And you're just like, what? They're in like
Alessia Russo's 25, 26.
Do you know what I mean? And it's almost like, I'm bored now of these players. I want someone new. And actually, they're reaching their prime now.
Yeah, I think, I mean, maybe force her hand a bit. So I don't want to not give the credit to Wiegman because she has done it, but also force her hand by injury is that she's had to play Grace Clinton against Spain. And I think that game against Spain, many don't agree with me, but I think that was the making of Grace Clinton in terms of showing her what she can do off the ball. The way that she worked with her teammates. Is
this the first game or the second game?
The one in February.
Yes.
She couldn't play the one in
June. Yes, of course, she picked up the five.
But I think Grace Clinton is one of the most creative players on the ball. And, you know, when she played for Tottenham and when she plays for Manchester United, but more so, I think when she played for Tottenham, she was used in that either on the left side or on the 10, and she was their creative spark. She's used predominantly as an 8 for England, so a bit more defensive lying, still attacking midfielder, but has that more defensive qualities. And I think she's really come into her own in that. And against Spain, she really showed that with her work rate off the ball. And she was really, you know, she might not have been the best in possession, but it wasn't that side of the game that mattered in that moment. And I think to have those experiences, to have her develop like that, so that she will now, you know, she will sit on the bench this tournament. She will be second in line to Georgia Stanway in the 8. But if something happens to Kira Walsh or Georgia Stanway, then she can, Georgia Stanway will go into the 6 and she can go into the 8. So she's ready now. She's had that experience against the best team in the world to go and take that. And the same with Jess Park. I think there are a number of young players on that bench who, while they might only have a few caps to their name, have got really, really useful experiences.
And now there's also a confidence in the bench that you know that you can put them on and they'll do a job. There won't be a dip. There won't be, you know, unsureness around the game plan. They have a bench now that can do what the bench in 2022 did.
And you look at like Aggie Beaver-Jones against Jamaica on Sunday, like it's, she comes on, she scores a goal, she looks really bright, and she does what her job at this tournament will be. And, you know, getting that hat-trick against Portugal did do her the world of good. She is a player who, despite only being 21 and being an emerging player in this England team, you know, has won multiple titles with Chelsea now. She's got, like, all of that counts towards being able to come off the bench and make an impact and not be scared of the kind of situation that you get into.
And when you think about that bench, the Jamaica game, you saw Chloe Kelly coming on, absolutely making a mark. You saw Lauren James coming on, unbelievable. Imagine Lauren James
strength and depth, not to.
It is one of England's.
I'm not trying to big up England too much, but I do think the strength and depth, especially in those attacking areas, is like second to none. And the different kind of strikers that you can bring on. Aggie Beaver-Jones is very different to Alessia Russo. Michelle Adjaman is very different to both of them. You've then got, you know, Lauren Hemp, Lauren James on the left, Lauren James, Beth Mead, or Chloe Kelly on the right, or Chloe Kelly on the left. As it turns out, there are so many options in there. You've got multiple people who can play in the 10. You know, Jess Park, Lauren James, Ella Toon, Grace Clinton, if she needs to. There's just so many ways you can shift the pieces of the puzzle to try and make an impact and solve different problems that might come up.
Very quickly, let's talk about the goalkeeper position. Do you have any concerns with that? Obviously, you know, Hampton hasn't played in a major tournament. This will be our first one playing in it. And then the other two goalkeepers don't have caps.
I do have concern. I don't really have concern about Hannah Hampton. I think she has played. I would be concerned if she'd been number 2 at Chelsea all season, but she's played every single game with Chelsea almost, and
big games
as well. And she's got them over the line, and you know, was joint Golden Glove holder in the season. I think she has that experience domestically under her belt that she's not coming in like just completely raw. Yes, internationally she's never had that, but she's been in and amongst camps. Like she was at the Euro2022, she was there for that. So I think that will do her the world of good. I do think it is a worry that you now have 2 keepers who are completely capless, completely raw. Coming, like if something did happen, touch wood, that it doesn't to Hannah Hampton, that they're coming off the bench. But I do think, again, especially with Anna Morehouse, you're looking at a title-winning goalkeeper. You know, coming off the back of the season that she had Orlando Pride last year, where they won the league. I think, that all serves to her, but it is a worry. To counter that, I would point to the World Cup in 2015, the quarterfinal, when Siobhan Chamberlain had to come on in this cacophony of noise. England, winning, but it was on the line
against the hosts.
The hosts were all against them. Karen Barsley, a bit of the hot rubber flew into her eye and she couldn't see anything, so she had to come off.
3G pitches.
Yeah, 3G pitches. Siobhan had to come on, and she performed brilliantly to see out the game. So I think it's people step up in those moments, and it could be the making or breaking of a goalkeeper.
England have obviously had to deal with the departure of Mary Earps, Fran Kirby and Millie Bright, which we have touched on in previous episodes. But I feel like a number of people we've spoken to have said they hope that this will galvanise the squad. And I guess if you look at that, the games that they've played since, I know they lost to Spain, but it doesn't feel like you can necessarily see its impact. I
get the feeling just from being around that media day anyway that players are pretty good at compartmentalizing things, I think, and changing their focus quite quickly. And I think the back-to-back news will have been a blow to them, but I think they are very good at parking things and moving on to the next game. It's what they have to do when they have a bad result, or they, concede a bad goal, score a own goal. You have to be able to brush it off, send it to the side and move on. And I think they do that pretty well. It's their job to do that. Definitely didn't get the feeling within talking to the players that they are particularly holding on to that at the moment. I think they know what their focus is. They know what they have to do. And it can galvanise it. You can feel like, the world's against you, and you kind of pull together. There is a benefit to that as well, I think. So it's or that people are underestimating you as well, or they're just saying there's problems when I think it could be a pull together.
Obviously, the group of death for England and for Wales, with England, Wales, France and the Netherlands, feels a bit like two derbies almost with the Netherlands and Wales. There's always something extra in these fixtures. Obviously, Wales is a derby, but the Netherlands with Serena Wiegman and the history those two teams
unofficial derby.
It is, and you've got the Miedema derby in there as well, which just adds another level of spice to that fixture. England have both won and lost against the French and the Dutch under Wiegman, so both teams know they can beat each other. It's so hard to call.
It is hard to call. I do think, as I said before, on their day, England can beat anyone, and they've shown that. They just need to be on their day. And but I do think Serena Wiegman is the coach who knows how to win in major tournaments. She is her record is ridiculous in major tournaments. To get to 2 World Cup finals back to back and win 2 European trophies back to back, you wouldn't want anyone else at the helm, I think. That's not to say they're going to do it, but I think if you're looking for the pieces that could get you there, I don't see anyone else, any other coach around the world who would be, other than maybe Emma Hayes, who would be able to be at that level right now. And
of course, the Wales fixture coming at the end, and it could be a very important fixture potentially for both teams. It's just almost like the icing on the dramatic cake.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting one. I think England will hope they've got it done and dusted. It's really interesting to see which part of the draw they go through on. I think it doesn't actually really make much of a difference.
It's not great either way. It's kind of like honest, either Germany or Spain.
You come second and Spain top the group. You avoid Spain until the final.
Or the final.
But then you meet Germany. So there are so many obstacles along the way that I think actually finishing either top or second is a bit of a crazy situation.
Finishing one of those two, ideally.
Yeah.
Okay, we did get to have a quick chat with Fara Williams at the BBC Sport Media Day when they were kind of launching all of the info around what they're doing for this tournament. So we had a chat to her about the wider tournament, about England, and of course about her role this summer as well. Here's what she had to say. Fara, obviously a big summer ahead. How much are you looking forward to it?
Yeah, excited. I think when we know we've qualified and in that kind of wait for the tournament, that in-between bit is a bit like, hurry, and now it's here. team selected. We know who's going. I think the excitement really starts to kick in now.
And, you know, looking back to obviously winning it in 2022, what do you think their chances are this time around?
I think no one gave them a chance in 2022. But I think when we have a manager in Serena that knows how to get to finals of tournaments, has done it in the last 4, it's very hard to write this team off. And when the backs are against it, the Lionesses seem to find a way of winning. And so it's difficult. I think if they top the group, the route to the final will probably be better for them. That quarterfinal, if they come second in a group, looks a difficult one. They've got a great chance, and I hate writing them off. So I don't know. At the minute, I'm semi-final for the Lionesses. I'm hopeful of a back-to-back, European champions. But ask me my opinion once the tournament starts. It's so difficult at this stage. But yeah, I'm hopeful. But if top of my head at the minute on paper and kind of the routes, I think England will get to a semi-final.
You touched on it there about Serena Wiegmann and, getting teams to finals. As a former player, why is it different when you're in a tournament versus when you're maybe playing friendlies or qualifiers? What is it about a tournament where you can just turn it on as a team?
Yeah, I mean, we did it towards the latter stages of my career anyway. We weren't too good at doing it in the early stages. But I think now they know how to do it. I think that kind of winning when the pressure's on, does it become a little bit easier? I think you know how to do it a little bit easier. It's the pressure on any England team in any sport is always high. So I think that's difficult. But this England team seem to know how to do it, regardless of how they perform. And even when I remember spending pretty much most of the World Cup writing them off after every game, they wasn't great in that game, and all of a sudden they're in the final and narrowly lose that. So it doesn't become easier, but I think in terms of that know-how of tournament, when the pressure is on, this Lioness team has found a way. I think for us, we were better in friendlies in our generation of players. I mean, we beat the Germans in a friendly, we beat the US in friendlies, and when it gets to the tournament and when it mattered, we wasn't able to switch it on. And I think this group of players are the reverse of that. The friendlies that they've played, or even Nations League at times, up and down, but tournament, when it matters, they show up.
You touched on that up and down, I guess, some of the games, some of the performances. Is that to be expected, I guess, in the build-up to a tournament? And also, I guess other teams are getting better. Maybe we don't talk about that enough.
I would agree that I think other nations are certainly bridging the gap. Which is so hard to predict when it comes to the Euros, especially the European nations. I think in terms of bridging that gap, they're doing it. The form of England, I think injuries. You look at the injuries England have had. They've had key players out. We had Alex Greenwood, didn't we? Obviously, Lauren James, Lauren Hemp coming back. Russo, picking up knocks. Beth Mead was out for a while. So I think in terms of that inconsistencies and trying to Stanway, I mean, everybody forgets about her, but she's so key to this England team in that midfield and the way she drives it. So I think in terms of that inconsistency, a little bit with some of the players, it's down to form at their clubs as well and how many minutes they get in, and then how much is expected of them when they come into the England camp. But injuries haven't helped.
Some of the areas, I guess, England have struggled with since the last Euros, people have complained about there not being enough goals. There's been concern about the midfield. There's been concern about the defence. And we're seeing games where now they'll go and score loads of goals. Now they'll be defensively sound. What areas do you think they need to maybe adjust ahead of the Euros? Or is there little tweaks in all areas?
No, I mean, we can always want more and better in each area. It's difficult. I think in terms of the balance of the team, I still think that left-back area is a little bit up for grab. And, when we won the Euros, pretty much Rachel Daly played that the whole time, and that was consistent, inconsistent in the World Cup. So I think that inconsistency at that full-back area is one area. I think we're still finding that extra player. I think, if you look back to the Euros when we won it, having Kira Walsh, Stanway and Fran Kirby, that really balanced, in my opinion, the midfield. And I don't think we've really replaced the balance of that. The World Cup Fran was a bit part player, and it wasn't really, was it Fran? It wasn't even Fran. Ella Toon played, didn't she? So it was Tooney. So we didn't have the balance, in my opinion. I think trying to find that extra midfielder that complements Stanway and Kira is important. Hemp's coming back to form. Russo's banging goals in, top goal scorer in the WSL. And then I think for England, Beth Mead, and I know everybody will talk about Chloe Kelly, but when it comes to England, I don't know what it is with Beth Mead. She knows how to perform. So I actually just think it's that extra midfielder and that fullback area that, if we can get players there consistently and don't keep rotating them and give them the opportunity to play and get that momentum and confidence, I think that's important in this tournament.
As a former player, when you're in this kind of period just before a major tournament, how are you balancing, I guess, the nerves, the focus? You know, you're trying to have a little bit of time off, but you know camp is coming and the tournament's on the horizon.
It's hard. You just want that first game and everything in between, you know, because you're still having to top up the fitness, you still have to do all the hard graft. They still focus on that, even though there might be a friendly between it. It's difficult. I always used to find this period from being selected to the first game long. It felt like an absolute drag. And I think that was the hardest part. I think even though the games come back to back and quite quickly in tournament, that's what we enjoyed and that's what we were playing for. But this bit is and I'm sure the players are thinking the same, it is a massive drag between, you know, now and the friendly against Jamaica and then obviously the first game against France. So it's managing that boredom, I guess, at times. They did that well in previous tournaments, hence why they got to finals of both of them. But look, these group of players have so much more in the hotels than we ever did to keep them occupied. So we probably got bored a lot more, or I did with my ADHD over, you know, some of these players that have probably got, you know, I've seen basketballs and I've seen, you know, everything in camp for them, the computers and that. So yeah, I don't think boredom will get in the way of them. It did for me a little bit.
In terms of now going as a broadcaster, how much are you looking forward to that? And I guess other teams, what are the teams you're looking forward to kind of analysing and picking apart?
Yeah, I mean, it's great. I think I never expected once I retired to be there pitch side watching a Lioness team win the Euros. So that first experience of being in the media for that first year, unbelievable experience. And then to be able to talk about the Lionesses, a dream. I know for some people, they probably don't like the criticism that comes of it, but I think, you know, as a fan, you want them to do well and we know how good they are. So I think for those as players, hearing it from ex-players, they probably don't like it sometimes, but I guess, you know, if you win a Euros, the expectation that follows that is just as big. And so there will be that pressure and there will be that little bit of negativity or ruthless, you know, analysis of it that they probably don't like to hear, but it's only because we want them to do well. We're massive fans. But I actually feel like I know a lot, or you observe a lot of the English teams, right? And I think what tournament football does, certainly for me as a pundit and somebody who's invested in analysing, it gives me the opportunity to watch, you know, the very best of the players in Europe, and that's something that I'm really excited about. Most of my games are, you know, other nations. I've got one England game in the quarterfinals if you get there, guys, so get there for me. But yeah, I get to watch a lot of like Switzerland and other teams that I probably wouldn't give half an eye to when it comes to tournament, because I'm heavily focused on England.
What's that prep like then when you have to focus on all these other teams? And I imagine it's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is. You know, the hardest thing for me, like watching football and analysing, I love that. I could do that all day. Pronunciations absolutely ruins me. I think I'm the only person that struggles with it. And I got a lisp and blah, blah, blah. So that's the only thing I struggle with. When I go into it, in terms of knowing like how I think or how I see them playing and tactics and all that, I come into my own. But yeah, names ruin it for me.
I guess the little things that people don't think about when you're preparing, you know, to analyse things. It's not just knowing all the players' names or where they play or what positions they play. It's all of those little details as well that people just maybe forget about.
100%. And but there's different types of, I guess, pundits, presenters, comms, media, whatever that they like. And mine is analyse. So I feel like once the game kicks off, I come into my own. I like the half time, the end of the game. Doing all the build into it, it's like, you know, knowing all the facts, knowing a little bit of personal stuff. I'm probably at my weakest when it comes to that part, because I'm like, yeah, once it's started and I can really focus in, that's when I feel like I'm at my best. But yeah, there's so many different areas to kind of preparing for, you know, watching or broadcasting the game that people don't see, and they think they could turn up and sit on the sofa and it's easy. It's not as easy as it looks.
How have you found that transition from off the pitch to in front of the camera even?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like the camera. I don't think anybody, I mean, there's a few of us that do, but you kind of ignore that it's there. You forget that there's millions of people watching and there is only a cameraman. So once I understood that and accepted that, I think it was all right. But I've enjoyed it. I like coaching, and I kind of see it similar to my coaching, is that, yes, I haven't got players in front of me telling them what to do, but when I'm seeing things on the TV, I'm trying to explain to them or give them my view of what I'm seeing in the best way possible, and sometimes too fast, but I'm trying to slow down and, yeah, educate the viewers. I think that's what I enjoy the most, in giving them my perspective on football.
It must feel like a way of being closer to the game again, even though you're not playing.
100%. I think you don't get the same buzz, I guess, week to week that you do in training and getting up for games. But when it comes to tournaments, there is no bigger buzz. Like, this is the closest I think you'll get to being involved as a player in tournament, you know, being on this side and sitting behind the cameras and talking about it.
Well, enjoy it. We look forward to seeing you on it.
Thank you.
Always good to hear from her. Another person backing Spain to win it. But also cool to get like that insight around how players manage that build up to major tournaments and stuff like that. Who will be the key players for England in this tournament?
How many do you want?
Give me 2.
Okay. That's hard. Can I give you 3?
If I'd said 3, you would have said 4.
No, I've got 3.
Okay.
So I think Alessia Russo has been in the form of her career. I think she's added so much to her game, more in the terms of kind of like productivity. She's really turned into a proper goal scorer, but she adds so much. We were watching the game on Sunday yesterday, and like you were saying, like the way that she triggers the press, the way that she activates the press sets the tone for the whole of the team. Like it triggers the intensity and the pace at which they do things, and she is so good at that. She just reads the play so well, out of possession as much as in possession, and she's scoring goals. So I think she'll have a really good, impactful tournament. Lauren Hemp, I guess those two had a really good World Cup, didn't they? But I think Lauren Hemp, the way that she kind of drives down the left side, she just adds so much speed and impetus and quality. And when those two link up, it can be really, really fruitful. And my final one is Lauren James, just because I think she just looked so good when she came on against Jamaica. She hadn't played a game since April, and she just looked like she'd never been away. And the way that she was like dazzling feet. The pass for the setup for Alessia Russo goal was one of the best passes I've seen in a while.
And Beth Mead almost got one from another wonderful little dinky pass.
Yeah, and I think the more that they can get her involved in the game, and when she's in full flow, she's unstoppable. So she will have a big role to play.
Okay, well, that's England. Intrigued to see how they get on. Let's move on to Wales. First time, of course, in a major tournament. Feels like it's been a long time coming. They've come so close so many times before. It's such a shame that this time it was at the expense of Ireland, but we'll move swiftly on. We don't need to dwell on that. They are, of course, the lowest ranked team in the tournament. They've got a big heart. They've got a lot of belief, and they're not just here to take part. They've been very clear about that. They're not here as tourists. They're here to cause some upsets. And what's really great as well is they've managed to do it in time for Jess Fishlock, who's 38 now, and Sophie Ingle, who just made it in time into this squad. How much of a part she'll play, we're yet to see. But to be able to do it in Jess Fishlock's time just felt right.
Yeah, she's the kind of player who deserves to be on this stage. I think it's a bit similar to when I wrote about Kim Little after Arsenal got through to the Champions League final, and those kind of players, those ones who kind of lift the game up, really deserve to be on the global stage. And Jess Fishlock is one of the best midfielders in the world, has been for quite a while. Was really at the top of their game for a long time, and both for country and for club. And I think the fact that she's now finally got to live that kind of dream out of taking Wales to a major tournament is absolutely huge. And for all of the eyes to be able to see what she can do.
Well, so we are in the process of writing a piece about not just the young players to look out for, but for us, some of the OGs that we're really keen to see on this stage. And one of them is Jess Fishlock. And I wrote that I couldn't decide who was luckier, Jess Fishlock for getting to a major tournament during her illustrious career, or Switzerland and Euro 2025 for getting to see Jess Fishlock at her first major tournament. It's one of those. So I think, she's going to be an exciting one to watch, whatever happens with Wales. Rhiannon Wilkinson has been in charge for 15 months now. I'm going to ask you a little bit about her impact, but I thought this was an interesting one from The Guardian's Louise Taylor, who wrote a profile on Wales. They've done a whole thing on every single team. Other than that bruising 4-1 loss to Italy in the Nations League at the end of the Nations League, which I think had a bit of context because by that stage they had been relegated. So maybe their heads weren't quite there. But they've not conceded more than twice in any game or lost by more than a goal under Rhiannon Wilkinson.
Yeah, they've definitely tightened things up, and that's what Wales are about. They do know how to defend and dig in and make it tricky for opponents to break them down. I think it's going to be interesting how that translates to tournament football, especially when you have game after game after game. It's a different vibe altogether, I think, generally. So that's going to be interesting to see if they can maintain that kind of level. I think it also depends on what happens in the first game. If they keep it tight and can get something out of that or get a narrow defeat out of that, then they get confidence. I think the problem is if touch wood they don't, but if they did go into that game against the Netherlands and they lose 3-4-0, I think that can easily change the course of the tournament for you. And I think the problem, yes, maybe that 4-1 loss to Italy came at the time when they were already relegated, but that was their last game that they've played. That's the memories of their last game, so they have to be able to park that and take that out of their systems, because they're coming up against, no offense to Italy, but they're coming up against attacks that are stronger than Italy.
Yeah, and unusual perhaps that they didn't manage to organise a pre-tournament friendly.
Yeah, they've been in Portugal for the last week, and I'm sure like the level of training has been brilliant, but I think Serena Wiegmann actually alluded to it as well. It's been really hard to organise friendlies in this window because you've got different nations doing different things. You've obviously got AFCON as well is starting up soon. So I think Portugal were able to play Nigeria, but like the opportunities are quite limited in terms of what people are able to do.
Wilkinson, I think, as well, it's been, as reports have said, she's maybe made the team a bit more flexible, a bit more adaptive, when coming up against different styles of play. We saw that when they played Ireland, even though they tried to say, wasn't Ireland dragged them down to their level or something along those lines. I can't remember what it was. But they very much played a disruptive game to disrupt Ireland's game and to kind of not allow them to find any kind of rhythm or embed their style a little bit. So I think, there's definitely been a bit more flexibility, which will probably be key given the three teams they're coming up against.
Yeah, I mean, she brings like that international quality, right? She's Canadian. She's been on the biggest stage. She's performed as a player on the biggest stage. I think she brings that experience to this, and she's been part of like the North American football system, which has excelled over the years, and she knows what it means and what it takes to win. I think she still has probably quite a lot to learn in terms of international football. It's gone well so far. Getting them to this stage, to a major tournament, is huge, and nothing should be taken away from her for that. But I think there is a lot of learning to do there still, especially when you are coming up against the bigger, more like experienced nations who will have a lot of wide tricks under their belt, as well as, that needs more than, a bit of passion to get through it a little bit. So, but I think Wales have, they have quality, as we mentioned. They have Fishlock. I think Kerry Holland is a huge asset in midfield. They don't
goal as well.
Yeah, but they don't have. I think their problem is they don't have, and I said this on the pod the other day, is they don't have that goal scorer, I think, at the moment, that really steps up and scores, the goals that you're going to see from like even a Pajor who plays for Poland, that out-and-out striker. I think they struggle in that respect. So it's how they go about
capitalising on.
Because Jess Fishlock obviously scores a lot of goals for them, but she can't score every goal, and you do need at some stage someone to step up and start banging them in up front.
Also, she scored a lot of goals for them because she's played a lot of bloody games. So
no, but like she's been there like
record scorer.
She's the person they look to get the goals. But you need to start spreading that around the team a little bit more, I think.
Yeah. They can cause big nations difficulty. They had 2 draws with Sweden. They are a team that are difficult to break down. I think Sweden struggle against teams that are difficult to break down as well. And they will need to draw on all of that experience in Ligue A when they come up against France, the Netherlands and England. We got to speak to someone who has played a key part in Wales's journey. She may not be playing in their first ever tournament, but she will be involved, and that is Helen Ward.
Just a few weeks out, how much are you looking forward to this tournament?
I've been looking forward to it since December. I think, it's really exciting from a Welsh point of view. First tournament, first time, I've never been to a tournament as a fan, a player, pundit, anything. So, really excited, and, not long to go now.
I feel like I should have made Sophie do this because I'm still hurting from that game in December.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Are you though? I don't think. It's fine.
I'm sorry for you, but not for the overall result.
Obviously, a history-making moment for Wales. I guess, can you imagine what it's going to be like when they step out on the pitch and sing that anthem for the first time in a major tournament?
I'm just getting goosebumps thinking about it now. Every moment since that night, I think, has been gearing up to the first game against the Netherlands, and to see so many of my friends in that team and in that squad, hopefully a good few of them lining up for that anthem on game one. Yeah, it's going to be feelings of pride. I'll have to try and keep it together on air. Make sure that I'm not showing too many emotions. I didn't do very well with that in Dublin, but it's going to be a massive moment, not just for those on the pitch, but everybody that's sort of witnessed the journey and maybe been a bit small part of it as well.
I guess kind of being thrown in at the deep end as well, isn't it? Like going to be a pundit at the Euros and getting to talk about Wales is pretty special. Yeah,
it's amazing. I mean, obviously, I'd have loved to have got to a tournament as a player. That would have been the ultimate goal, but I feel like this is a very close second. To be able to witness it, be in the stadium, be part of a BBC team that is going out there and make my tournament debut in a different sort of way to what I might have imagined, but equally as exciting and probably a little bit more nerve-wracking. So I've got absolutely no control of what's going to go on the pitch, and I have to make sure that my words make sense coming out as well. So excitement, nerves, but ultimately a lot of pride to be asked to be part of it.
I guess you have been a huge part of their journey to qualifying for the first major tournament. So to get to then go and still be a part of it in some way is pretty cool as well. Yeah,
it's amazing. I couldn't have asked for more. I'm very grateful for the opportunities to be involved, not only from a media perspective, but the FAW as an ambassador as well. I'm sure I'll get roped into some sponsors in engagement, which I'm absolutely fine with, by the way. To have that sort of position where I can still be semi-close to the team as well. And as I said, feel like a small part of it. The journey to this point was incredible, and did my bit on the pitch to a point, but these girls took it over the line, and I'm just lucky enough to be able to talk about it.
How much do you think the Nations League has prepped them for, what is a tough group?
Yeah, I think it was really important to be in League A for the Nations League. It was tough. We've been relegated from it again, which we didn't want, but you couldn't have asked for better preparation. In years gone by, maybe it would have been a few friendlies or qualification against teams that you're not going to come up against. I thought it was really great that the teams we faced in the Nations League, none of them are in our group in the Euros as well. I think that was really important. Got a couple of really positive results against Sweden. That away draw in particular, I thought the performance was excellent. When you look at the likes of Jess Fishlock, Sophie Ingle, Kerry Holland were missing from that team. So that was key. And it's taught them a few lessons that I'm sure they'll take into the tournament itself.
And what do you make of what Rhian Wilkinson has done with the squad so far?
You can't fault it, can you? She's the first person to do it and to take the team to a tournament. So for that alone, she deserves a huge amount of credit. But I think the biggest thing for me is the number of players that have got a really good amount of minutes. It wasn't just sort of a couple of minutes here and there at the end of games where games are maybe dead and buried, but she's throwing it in from the start. She's bringing on people that, they're not subs anymore, they're game changers. And I think that's the biggest thing now, is that you could pick an 11 from probably 15, 16, 17 players, which we've never had in the past. And that's credit to Rhian for putting her trust in that group of players who have been in and around it for a long time. But maybe when you look on paper, think, well, they haven't racked up too many caps, but now they can say that. They've got the minutes in their legs and they've got the experience against those top teams. And that can only stand us in a good position when it comes to the tournament.
Netherlands, France and England, some have called it the group of death, although I feel like there's at least three groups of death in this tournament. But how much will they be relishing that? Do you feel, they can kind of be the underdog, which I think you're good at, and maybe take the pressure off a little bit?
Yeah, I think so. I think in a 16-team tournament, all the teams are going to be good. And as the lowest ranked nation, we're always going to be the underdog. And I feel like Wales has lived as the underdog for many, many years. It served the boys very well in Euro 2016. And I think the girls can have a similar impact on the tournament. I'm not here saying that they're going to get to the semi-final just yet, but I do. I think it could suit us. We maybe go under the radar. Maybe the other three nations are looking at each other as the biggest threats, and maybe that can play into our hands. But what I know about the group of players is they're not going there to make up the numbers. They've got a grit and a determination and a belief about themselves, as well as a lot of quality on the pitch. Let's not forget, it's not all about the heart and the desire. They've got a lot of quality and a lot of players playing good minutes at a good level of football, which again is something that we're maybe not used to up until these last couple of years. So they're ready. Hopefully some the players like Sophie Ingle can get themselves ready and on the plane for that final squad. But yeah, there's some really, really important figures in that dressing room that will certainly help the team along the way.
What does success look like, do you think?
It's a really tough one because it is success that we are there, but that's not what we want to settle for. And I know it's not what the team want to settle for. I think success is getting out the group and getting to the quarterfinals. It's not going to be easy by any means, but if we can pick up a positive result in that first game against the Netherlands, a point or even 3, then who knows what can happen in those last 2 group games.
And I guess the thing about your first major tournament is there's a lot of things that can give you that bit of energy. If it's your first game, your first goal, your first point, there's a lot of things, I guess, that they have to look forward to apart from just being there.
Yeah, absolutely. And no doubt Jess Fishlock will get the first of one of those at least. She's got all the other records. But yeah, Soph Ingle is the only one with any sort of international tournament experience, having gone away with Team GB to Tokyo. So it's new for everybody. And yeah, that opportunity to be the first or part of the first team that gets the first point or the first goal scorer, as you said, whatever that might look like, that's sort of a carrot in itself, as well as the games and the final outcome of the tournament.
What about you going, in front of the camera this time? How much are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, I can't wait. Thankfully, I'm not actually going to be on camera very much. I'm going to be behind the microphone and doing the TV and radio comms, which I'm more than happy with. But yeah, I'm excited for it. It's something different. It's something new. As I said, it's my first tournament in any capacity, so that sort of sets it apart from anything else I've ever done. But yeah, I'm excited. I've watched people do it for years and years. Hopefully, picked up a few tips and stuff off of them. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
How have you found that transition from hanging up the boots?
I've enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed it. I was always sort of picked to do post-match interviews even before they really became a thing. Maybe because I can talk a better game than I could play, I don't know. But yeah, I enjoy it. I enjoy the pressure of the sort of live situations. I think it's exciting. It's not the same as playing, but it's quite exciting, and it gets your adrenaline going in a way that many other jobs probably wouldn't. So yeah, I found it an enjoyable transition, scary at times when you get put on the spot with questions that you're not expecting that can throw a curveball. But yeah, it's how you deal with them, and hopefully, touch wood, I've done all right at that so far.
Well, enjoy it. Enjoy first tournament. Enjoy watching them walk out for the first time and hearing that anthem as well. I know that it'll be special.
Thank you very much.
Always important to remember those who have been intrinsic on the journey, especially, it was like when Ireland made the World Cup and how much they spoke about the players that have gone before and the shoulders that they stood on. And Helen Ward is very much one of those players. I'm surprised she didn't get her boots on and try and get a call up. But it's nice to know that she'll still be there and get to kind of experience those first a little bit.
Yeah, I think Wales do that so well. I mean, they've got such an experienced squad, and you're talking about this being Jess Fishlock's last tournament.
And first
and last tournament. I mean, she probably won't make, knowing Jess Fishlock, she might make the 2027 World Cup, but she probably won't. In all likelihood, she will be 40 by then. But you're probably looking at this being the last kind of hurrah for several of the players. It's a very experienced squad in terms of like Hayley Ladd, Sophie Ingle. They've been around for a long time, and with that becomes that collective spirit that isn't just intrinsic to Welsh national pride. They are really, they're really good at being in that collective unit, but also just because they played together for so long and they know each other so well. I think that gives them a bit of an edge on maybe other newbies who, or like other teams who break into major tournaments who maybe are a bit less established in that respect.
Other than Jess Fishlock, who will be key players for Wales in this tournament? We've got Angharad James, their captain. Is that someone they're going to be relying on a lot?
Yeah, Haz will be key, I think. I mentioned Kerry Holland before. I think they really need Hannah Kane to step up. To be fair to her, she has done pretty well in stepping up, despite all her injuries, but they really need her, like this tournament, to be able to be that kind of clinical number 9 who leads the line, because she does tend to, she's been playing striker, I think, for the last couple of games. So they need her to make it count.
And finally, who will be the breakout star for Wales, do you think? Or maybe even it's their first major tournament. Maybe we'll just have a player who'll have a good tournament and kind of make a mark on the world stage, the European stage.
I think there's a really good opportunity for Carrie Jones. She has always been pinpointed as like the next big thing, and she's supremely talented. I think she's gone away from people's consciousness because she left England and the WSL, and went to play in Sweden, if I'm not wrong. So she's not like there for everyone to see, but like she has on her day, she has ridiculous quality, and she has the opportunity now to make sure like no one forgets about her, that she has the opportunity to seize.
Absolutely. Well, we're really looking forward to it. The Wales game we will be covering is, of course, England versus Wales. So no small fixture there. It's going to be absolutely unbelievable. It all kicks off this week on Wednesday evening with Group A leading the way, and we'll be at Switzerland versus Norway in Basel. Wales then take on the Netherlands on Saturday at 5 p.m. UK time, and after that England play France at 8 p.m. UK time. We will be aiming to provide a daily podcast roundup dropping in your inboxes in the mornings. Short, sharp and sweet. I know we've promised that before, but this actually will be, because we'll be doing it post-match and we'll be tired. So I say daily, I mean every match day daily. We may also do some meatier roundup podcast episodes throughout the tournament as well, which you won't miss any of if you are subscribed and following us across our platforms. We plan on doing some live in-game chats on Substack, as well as some Instagram lives as well. Again, you won't miss any of that if you're following us. But yeah, it's going to be great. We hope you come along the journey with us. If you're not there, make sure you come along the journey with us, because we want you to feel like you are right here. Enjoy the football, however you're watching it. We'll be back again very soon.